So I just watched No Way Home in theaters yesterday, and the movie is good. You might come into this video expecting praises from me, like all those YouTubers, but no, I disagree with those reviews. I think this movie is a good, standard Marvel movie with a pretty solid plot and execution, but it's nothing more in my opinion. I'm probably going to make a new video discussing this movie further with actual footage to go along with what I'm saying. But for now, I'll just point out the problems I have with the movie which brings the movie down from being great. Spoilers for Spider-Man No Way Home.
A Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. Spins a web.
Okay, the first thing I don't like is the dumb plot. Peter went to Doctor Strange to make everyone forget he is Spider-Man because he wants to go to MIT together with his friends. What? Out of all the possible reasons you could have given, this is the best you've got? I saw people pointing this out on YouTube or Instagram, and I completely agree with how dumb it was. Doctor Strange actually also mentioned how dumb he was when Peter realized he could just meet the MIT lady and ask her to reconsider. They could have easily made it so Aunt May, Ned, and MJ's life was actually in danger. For example, have the Mysterio believers terrorize them. You know some people would do that in real life. And that would give more meaning to the line.
But this isn't about me. This is hurting a lot of people.
Instead of it's just because they can't go to MIT together. So, because of Peter's stupidity, everyone who knows Peter is Spider-Man across the multiverse is transported into the MCU. But Doctor Strange managed to stop the spell from bringing more people, so we only get villains from the Raimi and the Amazing Spider-Man universe. And technically the Sonyverse. Except, we also have Tobey and Andrew, which is kinda dumb. Tobey and Andrew's Peter Parker is transported into the MCU because they know they are Peter Parker. Which means that Mary Jane from the Raimi films and Harry Osborn from the Amazing Spider-Man 2 are just conveniently not transported there when Doctor Strange stopped the spell from going overboard. Sure. Venom being there, however, makes absolutely no sense. Not gonna lie, it was kinda funny that they bring Venom into the MCU just to let him leave a bit of symbiote there, which also doesn't make any sense. Firstly, in Venom Let There Be Carnage post-credit scene, they gave a half-assed explanation about how the symbiotes all have a hive mind across the multiverse. Which means, because Topher Grace's Venom fought Tobey's Spider-Man, it caused this Venom to be aware of who Peter Parker is. But why isn't the tiny bit of symbiote left on the table not disintegrate into the original timeline alongside Venom and Eddie? On top of that, there's a continuity mistake as well. In Venom 2 post-credit scene, we saw the exact moment Venom got transported into the MCU, and we see Jameson exposing Peter Parker's identity as Spider-Man. Okay, so it takes place at the exact moment his identity is revealed. But then we see a shot of Tom Holland's Spider-Man, unmasked, and he's just standing around with no one in the background surrounding him. Where is this scene supposed to fit in No Way Home? It doesn't. It looks like a bunch of Sony executives just took a random outtake footage of Tom Holland in front of a green screen from Far From Home. Like, he looks completely clueless here. In No Way Home, after his identity is revealed, he quickly leaves from the scene with MJ. So yeah, the continuity is broken. Anyway, on to my next problem with the movies.
Itsy bitsy spider went up the water spout. I hate this song. Down came the goblin and took the spider out.
The villains are kinda underwhelming. To be fair, they did what they could have done in the limited time they have way better than Spider-Man 3 and the Amazing Spider-Man 2. But each villains didn't feel like the same villains we saw in their respective movies. It felt like a simplified MCU version of them. Even with all the screen time Doc Ock, Goblin, and Electro have, their characters did seem a bit shallow. Of course, Sandman and Lizard are obviously just there for the third act, so their writing is as shallow as it gets. Green Goblin is the main villain of the movie. He is the one who does permanent damage to Spider-Man by the end of the movie. But the shitty fight scene really made his scenes worse. I'll come back to that later on in the video. What I really dislike about Electro is that they didn't really fit the character. He is still as badly written as he always has been. He wants all the energy to become a god.
A god named Sparkles?
But later when the power is taken from him by Andrew Spider-Man, Andrew comforts him and it's all good. Also, why was Electro transported into the MCU in the first place? They made it evidently clear that this is the same Electro from The Amazing Spider-Man 2. He himself explained that he got transported here when he was ass-whooping Andrew Spider-Man, and in that movie, he died right afterwards. They even have him in his blue form in his introduction scene, which I thought was a nice touch. But Max did not know who Spider-Man is. He doesn't even know who Peter Parker is. At least Venom knowing Peter's identity can be explained with the hive mind information dump. But what's the excuse here? It would actually make more sense for then the Hun Goblin to be transported here. He actually figured out Peter is Spider-Man. And we actually saw the moment Electro figures out Peter's identity. It's in this movie. In that very scene where Andrew comforts him, he mentioned how he had a nice face and looked young. He also made a very terrible nod or reference, whatever you want to call it, to Miles Morales. It's very awkward, there's no subtlety at all. Which is another problem, Marvel jokes suck. Also, Sandman being in the battle seemed like lazy writing. In the movie, it seemed like he have trust issues or something, but Holland Spider-Man proved he is on Sandman's side. So why does he side with the villains? Electro's main goal in the battle is to destroy the cube thingy, but Sandman wants to use it to go back to his daughter in the Raimi timeline. So shouldn't he be teaming up with the three Spider-Man? Like, Raimi's Spider-Man even have a moment with him, when he tries to convince they are trying to help him. At least trust your own version of Spider-Man. This Sandman was taken from around after Spider-Man 3, so he should be on good terms with Tobey's Spider-Man. It's also weird how in the first scene he was introduced, where he mistakes this Spider-Man being his version of Spider-Man, he talks to Peter as if he is good friends with Tobey's Spider-Man for his universe. I mean, we don't know if they are, since he was taken after the events of Spider-Man 3, but if that's true, and he is friends with Tobey's Spider-Man now, then he should definitely trust him in the final battle. Also, I hate how he is fully in his Sand form. I guess they thought Thomas Hayden Church was just too old for the role, and they don't want to spend money de-aging him, so they go full CG on him. But it's very jarring to see that. And it's funny how they reused the shot from Spider-Man 3 to show Sandman reverting back to his human form after he was cured. We see Tobey's Spider-Man talking to him, and he has no reaction to him whatsoever. Same for the Lizard. Also, another nitpick I have is that acting and voice acting is not the same job. The same problem actually occurred in What If, when the actors from the other films reprises their role in the movie. It sounded really bad. That's the main problem I have with Sandman in this movie. Thomas Hayden Church reprises his role and provided the voice, but it sounded so out of place. And even his lines don't sound like what Sandman from the Raimi movies would even say. Lizard's voice acting is fine though.
Remember, with great power comes great responsibility.
I don't really like how Aunt May dies. I understand the significance of this character dying in order for this Spider-Man to finish his origin story. But I think it could have been handled better. This movie seemed to make Aunt May the Uncle Ben of the MCU Spider-Man series, retconning this movie to be the end of his origin. But my problem is Aunt May doesn't do much in these movies to make me care for her death. Like, remember how she said this in Homecoming?
Through the bodega across the street. Miraculously, no one was harmed.
If you spot something like that happening, you turn and you run the other way.
Yeah.
Which seems to imply that this Aunt May cared if his nephew were in a dangerous situation. But then, after Peter's identity was revealed to Aunt May in the end of Homecoming, they completely skipped through what could have potentially been one of the most interesting storylines in the MCU Spider-Man movies. I would like to see Aunt May come to terms with Peter being Spider-Man, and basically were in those certain dangerous situations, but they skipped through it. And now, she is completely supportive of Peter being Spider-Man and being put into these dangerous situations, which is why when she's finally killed off, it doesn't hit as hard as it could have been, and it's pretty disappointing.
This is like a spider, he looks like a bug. But we should all just give him one big hug. Look out, ooh, here comes the Spider-Man.
I don't think I'm the only one, but the action scenes in this film kinda suck. They don't really do anything creative or have any standout shot. They even picked the most bland setting to set their final fight scene in. And can I just point out how hard it is to pinpoint what the fuck is happening on screen? There's too much going on. The way these scenes are directed made it so hard for me to focus on what exactly is happening on screen. For example, look at this scene where Tom Spider-Man is fighting Doc Ock.
You want to play games?
Catch! Don't worry, ma'am! I'm coming!
Can you name everything he has done in that short clip? Struggling? Well, me too. When the second trailer for the movie was posted on YouTube and that shot was shown in it, the YouTuber by the name of Canadian Lad, who does this thing where he watches everything in 0.25 at speed, and watching the trailer in 0.25 at speed made him realize that Tom Spidey actually webbed Doc Ock's tentacle onto the car door before Doc Ock breaks it.
Where we now see Dr. Octopus fighting Tom Spider-Man. Now if you slow down the speed and zoom in, you can actually notice that Peter webs up one of Doc Ock's tentacles to this car door. But his attempt goes in vain as Doc Ock literally breaks off the door of the car. It happens so fast, if you don't slow down the playback, you'll miss a lot of the efforts that Tom Spider-Man makes to stop Dr. Octopus.
He then proceeds to appreciate how much effort the VFX department put into the shot. If you need to slow the scene to 0.25 speed to fully realize what the heck is happening on your first viewing, doesn't that make it a bad action scene? Usually in the scenes, we would have a close-up of Spider-Man webbing the car, followed by Doc Ock giving a reaction shot. This is what Sam Raimi does in all of his Spider-Man movies. This is why I can watch those fight scenes all day, but I couldn't do the same for the MCU Spider-Man. Watch the train fight scene or the subway scene. You'll see what I mean. Each shot gives you information on what's happening on screen very clearly. And Raimi always slips a close-up shot for us to really focus on what's happening on screen. For example, look at this scene. That's clear enough, right? Well, that's not what the final film looked like. This is what the final cut of the film looks like. So, is the shot of Spider-Man shooting his webs to Doc Ock really necessary? I think it is. Without this close-up shot, people might actually miss Spider-Man webbing Doc Ock. The reaction shot also helps to balance the pacing quite a bit by making the fight fast-paced, but also have these breathing rooms which technically breaks continuity. But it doesn't matter, it works. Anyway, back to No Way Home. The CGI in this final fight, oh my god. They overuse the CGI to the point where shots of Spider-Man just landing or running is made entirely with CG characters. And we never even see Raimi Spider-Man with his mask on practically. Every time his mask is on, it's fully CGI. And the mask is not even accurate. The fight scene with the Green Goblin, however, suffer from another problem. Too many cuts. In Spider-Man 2002, we have a brutal and realistic fight between Spider-Man and Green Goblin. Here, however, we have a typical Hollywood fight scene with a disgusting amount of cuts, making it hard to even comprehend what moves they are making with the random choice of shots. I do love how the fight ends, what it means and all, like how it parallels the first Spider-Man fight. But the fight scenes are so bad for being like the 27th MCU movie. I thought they already learned their lesson from Shang-Chi. Also, why is Tobey and Andrew's suit so clean at the end of the movie? They should have at least ripped the suit a bit, or give them a bunch of wounds or scars. When Tobey got stabbed, I don't think there's even a hint of blood on his stomach. Come on, I know it's PG, but you can have a bit of scar on Tom Holland's Spider-Man face. Green Goblin's face is also way too clean after all that punches he received from Tom Holland's Spider-Man. So yeah, that's the end of the video. There's more stuff I want to talk about this film, including the stuff that I actually liked. Please subscribe, click the notification icon to stay up to date to more videos coming up on my channel. Yeah, that's it.